serpents and spiders, tail of a rat. Call in the spirits wherever they're at.
Welcome to the boundless realm of the challenges of getting this attraction open. The Haunted Mansion was listed on a souvenir map in 1958. Construction on the mansion began in 1961, and a handbill handed out at the main entrance announced that the Haunted Mansion would be open in 1963. 1963 materialized right on schedule, but the Haunted Mansion, well, didn't. The exterior was completed, but there was nothing inside. The Imagineers were definitely taking care of the outside, but the ghosts hadn't moved in yet. Walt had Marty Sklar, then new Imagineer recruit, put up an advert outside the Haunted Mansion gates. It read, "Notice, all ghosts and restless spirits. Post-lifetime leases are now available in this haunted mansion. Don't be left out in the sunshine. Enjoy active retirement in this country club atmosphere. The fashionable address for famous ghosts. Ghosts trying to make a name for themselves, and ghosts afraid to live by themselves. Leases include license to scare the daylights out of guests visiting the portrait gallery, Museum of the Supernatural, graveyard, and other happy haunting grounds. For reservations, send resume of past experience to Ghost Relations Department, Disneyland. Please do not apply in person." But the Haunted Mansion was again put on hold as Walt took on one of the biggest gambles of his career, the 1964-65 New York World's Fair. Walt's gamble definitely paid off. The Disney shows were the hit of the fair, and subsequently Disneyland received 3 brand new attractions and major addition to a 4th at very little cost. Once the fair was over, Walt's attention turned back to Disneyland and the projects still on the waiting list. After so much time had passed, the concept for the story of the Haunted Mansion had changed, as well as its lead creators. Ken Anderson had gone back to the studio when work began on the fair, so Walt assigned Imagineer Mark Davis and background artist Claude Coates to work on the project in 1964. As one of Walt's 9 old men, Mark was a natural for the audio animatronics, having worked on the Enchanted Tiki Room, Pirates of the Caribbean, and the Jungle Cruise. His main focus was on creating ghostly characters. He developed his own treatment for the attraction, replacing Beauregard the Butler and Captain Gore with a disembodied ghost host to narrate the tour. Now, when I was little, I was told that the ghost host was the raven with the red eyes that you see throughout the attraction. But obviously that's not true. But I love finding out that I am wrong about something in Disneyland history because it means I have learned something new, which is one of my favorite things. Walt brought in ex Atencio to work on the script for Pirates of the Caribbean, even though he didn't know anything about script writing. But he did so well, he was a natural choice for the Haunted Mansion. X was quoted as saying, "Walt always had the knack of finding talents in his people that we didn't realize ourselves." Construction on the Haunted Mansion took a backseat yet again in 1965 when the other attractions took the main focus of development, mainly Tomorrowland, because technology kept overtaking what they had developed. But the biggest roadblock on the development of the Haunted Mansion came on December 15th, 1966, when Walter Elias Disney passed away from lung cancer. Walt's Imagineers were lost without his guiding creative force and his break-the-tie authority. The loss of Walt's final say on a project had serious effect on the Haunted Mansion, which by now had been all over the creative map for 10 years. Richard Irvine, vice president of the company, felt that there were 2 Imagineers who could guide the Haunted Mansion to completion. The partnership of Mark Davis and Claude Coates had such enormous success with the creation of Pirates of the Caribbean that they were tasked with finishing the Haunted Mansion. Frustratingly, the 2 struggled to work together this time. With their success in creating Pirates, they each felt that they had earned autonomy and take the creative lead on the project. Their differences in approach led to one of the greatest debates ever to take place in development. Should the Haunted Mansion be scary or funny? I think that they realized a compromise was necessary, so some things are scary and some things are funny, and some are a little bit of both. Another debate that hadn't been settled was whether the Haunted Mansion should be a walkthrough or a ride-through attraction. Disneyland officials always wanted to be able to funnel as many people per hour through an attraction. Ex Atencio said of Dick Nunes, director of Disneyland operations, he was a bear for capacity. We gave him the nickname Hop Along Capacity. But they were unsure as to the type of vehicle that should be used to make it a ride-through. The story is told that in a meeting, Imagineer Bob Gurr picked up a plastic apple off of Imagineering legend John Hench's desk and began to spin it by the stem. Struck by the image, he remarked that they needed to develop a continuous chain ride car that could rotate 360 like the apple. Thus the idea for the Omnimover was born. But the Haunted Mansion, they're called doom buggies. With the Haunted Mansion now being a ride, that created more challenges. It would take longer for an illusion to cycle through to its completion, meaning guests would not be able to see the whole effect. With the invention of the Omnimover, or doom buggy, combined with the advances in audio animatronics and led by a team of Imagineers, they dropped the concept of a walkthrough in favor of a ride-through experience, in which fully animated ghosts and ghouls and goblins would share the stage with illusions and special effects that Raleigh Crump and Yale Gracie had been working on in the late 1950s. As with Pirates of the Caribbean, more than one Imagineer had concerns about the potentially questionable subject matter, and it was X who convinced Walt that a rousing song might be a good way to lighten things up a bit. I thought they would give it to the Sherman Brothers, X remembers. I kind of half sang, half recited it, and Walt just said, yeah, that's great. Get with George Bruns and do the music. And that's how I became a songwriter. X took the same approach to Haunted Mansion as he did on Pirates, writing the lighthearted lyrics to Grim Grinning Ghosts, alternatively titled The Screaming Song. I'm glad they kept the title we have now. Each verse had to make some kind of sense, no matter where you heard it, so the music cues are in perfect length and synchronization to avoid an aural overload. Different arrangements of the song are used throughout the experience. There is the funeral dirge in the foyer, to an elegant waltz in the grand hall, to a jazzy jamboree in the graveyard. They did everything they could to give those music cues an even more otherworldly quality, including detuning the instruments and recording the music backwards and combining it all in the final mix. Now, I'm not musically inclined, but I do love soundtracks, and I love Disney soundtracks. So when I used to be a cast member in the Disney store, guests would hear the Disney soundtracks playing and ask how I could stand listening to that all day. My response usually surprised them because I told them I have the same playlist that I listen to in my car all the time, even though there were no kids in my car at the time. Of the Haunted Mansion effects that I like the best is the Grand Ballroom. I never feel like I have enough time to see everything. I almost lean out of the doom buggy trying to catch it all. And the Grand Ballroom has so many examples of Pepper's Ghost. Now, Pepper's Ghost is an illusion technique created by scientist John Henry Pepper. He made the effect popular with a theater demonstration in 1862, and this launched an international craze for ghost-themed plays that used this effect. Now, I was so fascinated by it that I got my husband Alan to help me create our own Pepper Ghost illusion, and it seemed only fitting to use my Haunted Mansion Lego set. So, if you don't want spoilers on how the effect is achieved, you might want to skip ahead a few minutes. Okay, so this is our Pepper's Ghost box. So we have the Haunted Mansion, and then we have our ghosts that can appear and disappear. So we've got Beauregard the butler, and then we threw in Red Skull. let's cross the streams. Disney and Marvel. So to give you an idea of how this works and how it looks, so this is our box. So it's 2 separate pieces with a glass at 45-degree angle. So we have our Lego figurines over by themselves, and the mansion is actually by itself without the ghosts, but we have a little plexiglass up here. Oh, you can see the ghost's feet. So this is how this works. So this is the technique that they use in the Haunted Mansion, something that was developed in the 1800s, and we're using it still today in the 2000s. Pretty cool. Teleprompters are a modern implementation of Pepper's Ghost, and at this very moment I am using a teleprompter that my husband made when he used it for work, but I've taken it over for my videos. One of the things that I find so fascinating about Pepper's Ghost technique in the Haunted Mansion is that in the Grand Ballroom, the figures are above and below where the Doom Buggy track goes. So the figures are literally above and below you as you pass through the ballroom. One of the funny things with being a reflection, the waltzing couples are dancing backwards. The women are leading the men through that waltz. Now I'm assuming they could have fixed that, but I imagine it would have had to have been a major adjustment. Or maybe they were just ahead of their time with the women leading the men. One of the newest ghosts has had quite a fan following even before being in the attraction. The Hatbox Ghost has been an urban legend since the opening of the Haunted Mansion. It was said when they had reporters riding the attraction, one had a heart attack. It was so scary. Her real story is their ambient light in the attic prevented the ghost's face from completely disappearing, so he looked like he had 2 heads, one in the box and one on his shoulders. The Hatbox Ghost wasn't added to the attraction until 2015. Madame Leota is another popular character in the attraction, and she was portrayed by Imagineer Leota Toombs. I love that that's her real name, and it doesn't get any more on the nose than that. And she's voiced by Eleanor Audrey, who did the voice for Lady Tremaine in Cinderella and Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty. In the graveyard, there are the singing marble busts. And I used to hear people say that the one that was broken and tipped on its side was Walt Disney. And it does look a little bit like him, but it's actually Thurl Ravenscroft. Ironically, the font used for the Haunted Mansion is called Ravenscroft. Now, I did say in the last episode that I'm not a fan of the Nightmare Before Christmas overlay, but I am a fan of the annual Gingerbread House that is on the banquet table in the Grand Ballroom. Every year, the Gingerbread House is different. I look forward to seeing what they come up with every time. And when you pass through the Grand Ballroom, you can smell the gingerbread. So join me next time for the last episode on the Haunted Mansion when we travel outside of Disneyland to learn interesting facts about the other mansions and which park is the only one not to have one.